want a cookie? He's having a dive of cookies.
One is us, all of us. I think with Callie, maybe. Yeah, I mean, it's nice.
Did everybody get a sheet of paper, 2 sheets of paper? If you did, please. There's also a sign-in sheet going around. Please make sure you sign in, and then mark if you want to be communicated on this.
Agreed.
Okay, let's get started. So, good evening, everyone. Can everybody hear my voice okay, or should I speak up a little louder? A little bit louder. All right. There are plenty of seats around the table. Feel free to saddle up here. Thank you guys all for coming tonight. As you know, this is the Stanford General Use Permit Development Agreement community meeting. We are holding this meeting as part of PTA Council's advocacy efforts to make known what is happening with the Stanford GUP, as it's called, and also some of the information that we're receiving from both the county and from Stanford and from our own board. So what you have before you here are 2 handouts. If you haven't gotten these, please, so if you haven't gotten these, please help me hand these out. One of the document is the actual board resolution that Palace Unified School District Board voted on the week before Thanksgiving, and it details what mitigation efforts we're looking for from the district. There were 3 of them. And then the other document is what we call the fact sheet. It's something that PTA Council's pulled together for the average busy Palo Alto parent, because it's really hard to get through this document material if you don't have the time. And we sort of collated a lot of information into this fact sheet. So if you just read through the fact sheet real quick, and it'll be up on our website as well, then you can get a really basic understanding. So I've invited Jennifer DeBrienza, our board member, and Todd Collins to come and share their perspective on what is happening. And also, Mev Steiner is here also from Sorry. Yeah, she represents the classified staff. Just to get everybody up to speed, this is really a meeting for you guys to ask questions, to understand what's happening, and to give feedback. So the reason it's recorded isn't because that I'm looking very pretty tonight, but it's really for everyone to give everyone an opportunity to speak, so that we will be able to forward this on to the county. If you do not wish to speak, that's okay. You can write it down for us. You can forward it to us, and we'll forward it on. There are also on your fact sheet on the 2nd page places that you can email stuff directly. You don't have to go through us. But if you prefer the oral tradition, this would be the right way to do that. If you do plan to speak, I would just ask that you would state your name and also your affiliation to the school, and also how old your children are or is, so that it's understood that this is coming from a Palo Alto parent. Okay, so I will turn the podium to Jen, and just to give this sort of background on where the district is in terms of this.
Sure. I'll give you a very brief sort of step back one more. And as I'm sure many of you know, Stanford's been here since the late 1800s. This is not their first general use permit. Anytime Stanford wants to grow in any way, build more office space, build more housing, they need to go through the county to get that permission. So rather than coming back for every project, they make a big master plan and they go to the county. And they're going for a general use permit. They're trying to get permission from the county to do this much building. That's a lot of building. They did this 2000, 18 years ago. That's right, because they started it in 2015, this one. In 2000 was the last time they did this, and now they're coming back with another one that they expect to last them for 30 years or whatnot. So it involves a lot of new building. The reason that directly impacts the district, besides the fact that it impacts our community at large because there's potentially more traffic and more people and whatnot. So that's something that you have to think about how you feel about independently of the district. But because the district is a part of, because the university is a nonprofit organization, they can request exemptions to pay tax on the properties that they have. So the district is primarily funded through property taxes. You pay your property taxes or whoever owns the building you live in, and that goes to the county, and the county gives us a piece of that. And we set our budget based on how much the county is going to give us. We are very lucky. We have a very nice tax base. But anytime a new building gets built in Palo Alto, although it typically brings more students with it, it also brings more revenue because it's a new building and taxes get paid on that go to the county and we get a portion of it. The difference is for Stanford that they are tax exempt. They can request to not pay taxes. So if they build 2 million more square feet of space and they build units that could house anywhere between 250 and 1,500 new students, depending on how much housing they build. Those students are zoned for Palo Alto, even though Stanford is its own space. The Palo Alto Unified School District serves Palo Alto students and any students that live on Stanford campus, as well as a few other small spots. What that comes down to is we would be getting potentially hundreds of new students with no new dollars to go along with them. So we don't have to negotiate directly with Stanford. Stanford is going to the county and asking for permission to do this. And this started about 2 years ago, and they started asking for input from the community. So in various ways, as a board, we initially just communicated with both Stanford and the county saying, here are our concerns. If you send us students with no dollars, that's going to impact our situation. A number of circumstances that we set out. As it has progressed, the county has agreed to do what's called an NDA, a development agreement. There was an N part of it at some point, and maybe that's been dropped, but a development agreement is that what it is? A non-binding development agreement with Stanford, which means that they are making a separate agreement. They have options of how they can go about all of this zoning. There are currently laws on the books, and they can either take what Stanford's proposing and say, these are our requirements, or they can go around it and say, given that you are Stanford University and you're looking to do something enormous, yes, we'll make a deal with you. So we weighed in as a school board, as a district, saying, here's what we want. If you're going to go to bat with Stanford, trying to make an agreement, we think that's fine. You go ahead and do your thing. But for every student that comes to our district, because of that housing they build that they don't pay taxes on, we spend about $19,500 per student right now. So we'd like to see $19,500 per student they send. They can total it up. If it only turns out to be 30 students, great, $19,500 per student. If it turns out to be 1,500 students, okay, we want $19,500 per student. So that the people that live in Palo Alto, so that presumably most of you, your children's education isn't impacted because now we have to serve hundreds more students with the same number of dollars. The other thing that we said was important for us was because at the elementary level we have neighborhood schools. We value that both because we want to keep the traffic down, we want to keep kids safe, and we want kids to live near their classmates so they can more easily hang out with them and whatnot. Right now, the way that they're looking at building over by Quarry Road, over by the Stanford Mall, basically, by Sand Hill Road, they're looking at building in an area over there. Students that currently live there already have to commute over to Nixon or Escondido, depending. So already there's not a neighborhood school there, and we have a bunch of kids there. If they build this additional housing there, we believe that will warrant enough to actually have its own school right there, so that no kids have to go all the way across campus. And so we are also asking for a parcel of land so we can build a school there. to keep with our promise to neighborhood schools. So those are our big asks, and that's where we are right now. Last month, we sent a resolution to the county saying this is what we really think we would need in order to not do significant damage to the Palo Alto Unified School District. Does that sum it up?
Yeah.
That was great.
Okay.
Todd, do you want to talk a little bit about the process of what the county is doing and where we're at in that process?
Sure. So, the hardest part about what all the issues that Jennifer raised about the need to mitigate the Stanford growth are spot on. The problem is the district has no authority to get anything from Stanford. We have no leverage over them. We can't say no, those kids can't come. We can't levy a tax on them. We can't do anything. Our job is to educate all the kids who live in PAUSD, and that's part of it. So the only entity that has the ability to get Stanford to pay is the county, and the only leverage they have is the approval of the GUP. So the approval of the GUP, just to put it in context of how high stakes this is, if we don't succeed in getting mitigation from them now, there will not be another. The last GUP was in the year 2000. The one before that was 1989. So none of us will still be around worrying about this the next time there's an opportunity to get money to cover kids coming without any money. So if we miss this opportunity, it'll be up to the next 15, 20 years from now. So we really can't miss this opportunity. So we need to get the county to stand up for us. That's what it amounts to. The county has the right to approve or not approve the GUP with or without conditions. They can also enter into this development agreement, which is basically supposed to be mitigation above and beyond what the GUP process would require Stanford to do by law. And that amounts to getting the county supervisors to recognize how important we feel this is, and that they think that it's important for them to get what we need. That process, as Jen mentioned, is broken into two parts at this point. There's a thing called the development agreement that's being negotiated now between the county and Stanford, and then the development agreement becomes part of the overall GUP, which will have what they call conditions to approval. The development agreement process is interesting because the county has created what they call an ad hoc committee of 2 county supervisors, our own Joe Simidian, who I'm sure most of you are aware of, and another person, Cindy Shavitz, who represents the San Jose area. Cindy and Joe are the ad hoc committee. They are the ones who are going to negotiate the development agreement with Stanford. Now, all 5 supervisors ultimately have to vote to approve it, but as anybody who sits on a 5-person body like Jen and I do knows, if you have 2 votes, you can usually get another. And so if Jen and Joe agree that this is what should be in the development agreement, that's probably what it's going to be.
Cindy and Joe.
I'm sorry, Cindy and Joe.
Okay.
That's
a lot of power to me.
Yeah. Feel
But
promotion.
I mean, when they go do all that work, their colleagues tend to defer to them unless there's a real big reason not to.
So I think it's our role as community members is to make sure that those elected representatives understand what's important to us and why. At the end of the day, Joe represents us, Cindy does not, but they all represent and are responsible for good outcomes in the county. And they are all, like all elected officials like us, very responsive to when they hear from the community about what really matters to them, especially when it's something important like education. So, I think one of the tactics we've obviously passed a resolution. We've made sure that Palo Alto Unified has a message. I think we also need the community to reach out and have a message, specifically to the county supervisors negotiating the development agreement. Because once the development agreement is completed, which is expected to be kind of February, March timeframe, it's going to be awfully hard to change. If that's where the bar is set at the time the development agreement is finalized, there might be some tweaking, but once the bar is set, it's going to be very hard to say, no, we want it up here, not down here. I don't think that's going to be a very tough road to hoe. So a lot of our efforts are focused right now and in January in getting Supervisor Chavez and Simidian to respond to basically our request in the resolution. After that, there'll still be plenty of opportunities. I'm told the County Board of Supervisors is going to have their first ever meeting outside of San Jose in Palo Alto in order to hear feedback from Palo Altans on the GUP generally, not just schools, but schools, traffic, housing, environment, the big issues that come up. So that'll be a big event. But like I said, schools are mostly going to be covered in the development agreement if there is one. So it'll be too late for us. 200 people waving signs will be nice, but if the development agreement is already worked out in February, that 200 people waving signs in May is not going to change it. So that's why we've got to be alert now and really make our voices heard now in order to make sure that we can have impact over the next 2 years. Did that cover what you're looking for?
Yes, so like you guys, we just sort of had deferred to everybody else who is the expert on this until we realized how much of an impact this was going to be. And so we tried to get up to speed. We asked Todd to come talk to our exec board just to understand generally what was happening. And then is when we found out they were having this development agreement. We didn't know what that was, just like maybe for some of you are hearing it for the first time today. So if you go to the county website, there's like 10 pages of names of documents, because remember, this has been going on for 2 years. And we had to sort of go through a lot of material to get up to speed. And then what we found was they've already had 3 public meetings. They had 1 in Menlo Park and 2 in Palo Alto. But all of these meetings were not during when school was in session. So obviously none of us knew about it. One was actually at Fletcher, but we didn't know about it because it was during holidays, during the time when school was not in session. So I don't know if it was, I don't think it was done on purpose, maybe it was just the regular timeline of things. So we asked them, we're going to have meetings that concern the school, please tell us during when school is in session. That was number 1 of our asks. But more importantly, what was interesting is if you look at the transcript of these meetings, there are traffic people there are housing people there's water people there's like plant and tree people there. So the school piece is very, very small in the whole grand scheme of things. And it's a little bit disconcerting that we can't actually articulate what we want to say, not only because of all the competing interests that are being recorded, but we weren't even present. So we're really coming up to speed very late. That's why the urgency of this right now is we need everybody to understand generally what's happening and also to voice your opinion on, how is it going to impact your kids' education in the classroom? How is it going to impact your daily commute? How is it going to impact your school if you're going to get the overflow from the kids coming from Corridor? That's why I sent out information to those schools that might be especially impacted because you're geographically closest to the new school being built. So I just want to thank you guys for being here because it's really important that the county hears from us, from you, about what is on your mind and what's important. And to be able to do that, you have to first understand what is being done. So I think what I'll do is just maybe go around the table and ask if you have any comments or questions, and then we have experts here who can answer some of those questions. If we can't, we can direct you to someone else who can people who can answer your questions. So, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. My name is Lauren Williams. I have 2 children in PTA USD. Both go to Addison Elementary, 3rd grader and 4th grader. We had someone at the last meeting that took place last week, and so we just spoke about this. We had a PTA meeting this week. My question and sort of what came up in our discussion was in previous versions, GUPs, was Stanford willing to contribute on this? I mean, is this like us pushing school for the first time? They've never included that, or is this something that they're willing to play with?
So the answer is yes, though I'll put an asterisk next to it. It wasn't formulated exactly the way we're doing now. But during the 2000 GUP, there was the biggest housing development that was built as a result of that is Stanford West. I don't know if you know Stanford West on Sand Hill Road there. 628 1- to 3-bedroom apartments. About 250 kids come to PAOSD from Stanford West. Stanford, after a long negotiation, there was a school board member at the time who was as much a jerk as I am, who basically turned the screws on them just the way that I'm trying to do. And they ended up paying $10 million, one-time payment to PAOSD in consideration of mitigation of what was getting built.
That's not gonna cut it.
Yeah, and it was, you know, it was nice, it was what they could get. They also asked us to build a local school then. Exactly what we're asking now is what they asked then. What Stanford came back with at the time is we'll give you one or the other, but not both. They actually,
It's hard to hear, I'm getting it.
Yes.
Okay, so let's all make sure we're speaking up, people at home.
oh, okay.
Yes.
They actually offered us a piece of land on Deer Park Road. You know where Deer Park Road is?
Or
Deer Creek.
Deer Creek Road, thank you.
Not Horse Hill, so it's not the horses up
The
there.
joke I always make is maybe that would be good for a boarding school because there's no houses anywhere near it, but, so they offered us, that's what they offered. And we were, I think the district at the time was happy to get it because, for the 1989 GUP, they got nothing. The other thing I'd add to that is, you know, we've done some research on what other private universities do. Harvard, Yale, Princeton,
University of
Dartmouth,
Michigan.
Brown, that's a public university, it's a little
Yeah.
different there. Cornell, Princeton has, all of them make annual contributions to their local communities. In the Northeast, most of the schools are usually part of the city, so it's not a separate thing. But they make those voluntary contributions because they realize otherwise the university will eat its host town. As those universities grow, they just take an amount of, they're all tax exempt, and they take a lot of resources. So the answer is yes, they did in 2000, and there are many other universities that do the same.
So I'm gonna pass this around. This was the conditional use permit from last time, and school appeared on page 33 of page 37 of this document. And we had one paragraph, and the paragraph was about this $10 million. That was it. So if you think about it,
Now, I want to tell you something concerning too, though, because you raised it, and I'm going to reference that email. Some of the PTAC people had a meeting at Stanford's request with Stanford's representative, who's a lady named Jean McCowan, who's actually a former mayor of Palo Alto and a very nice person, who now works for the university. Jean said that and she said it, I'll just repeat what she said, I don't know if it's an official Stanford position or not, is that they did not plan to contribute 1 penny of additional funds for unfunded students from the new development. Now, I've been emailing her saying, Jean, could you please clarify if that's an official position, because I'm gonna take out a full-page ad in the newspaper and make sure everybody knows if it is. But that's what they have said. I have no idea why they would say that. I don't know if it's an official position or Jean was venting or she was misquoted. I don't know.
She also said that they are not willing to sell us any land, not give us any land. They're not willing to sell us any land.
So that's kind of one of the things that has made us raise such a big alarm about this is that, and I can tell you, there have been lots of private conversations, including Dr. Austin and people at Stanford, trying to figure out kind of where this is going to go. We have gotten no indication from Stanford. Stanford has never proposed anything, has never offered anything, has never indicated that they were going to offer anything. So where we stand now is that unless we raise the alarm and get our county supervisors, we will not get it.
Okay. Okay, can we keep going? Oh, Jessica, my son, Johnny, is going to the school at the beginning. I have a daughter, just graduated this year, from Pali.
Sorry, I've got a request to speak up. I guess
Oh.
it's hard for people.
Wow, you're a long-term customer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One's coming. I don't want to start, making cloud, but yeah. I really like the, the environment, the size of the class. I really don't want to see a larger size, and also I don't like, the traffic of class, more people moving here, but more traffic here.
Yeah.
So those are multiple reasons to talk to the supervisors.
Yeah.
We're just here for the school part, but there are other impacts too that they're trying to consider.
But a really good point that I just want to underscore. This is the hard math of school finance is not that complicated. If we get kids without additional funds, there's only one way to balance the budget: larger class sizes.
We spend 87% of our budget on staff, on teachers and support staff.
So yeah, we can't hire more teachers. It takes more money to hire more teachers. If we can't hire more teachers, you put the kids in the classrooms with the teachers you've already got. So if you like, this is the direct impact of getting a lot of kids without additional funding is going to be larger class sizes. period.
And I think that's the really important thing to realize is you'll hear a back and forth from Stanford saying, but there's so much we do for PAUSD. And I think that ideally, it's a very symbiotic relationship. There's a lot that we do benefit from having them right there.
And they benefit from being able to tell any faculty they're trying to hire, your kids can go to this wonderful public school. But no matter what they do for us, without the dollars per kid, it doesn't matter. They can provide professional development, they can let us use a field, they can whatever. It's not the same thing as dollars per kid. That's what we need.
There was a protest or a labor movement at Harvard like 15 years ago that took a long time, and they eventually got a bunch of concessions. But the main theme of that was you can't eat prestige. And I think that's an important lesson here. We love having Stanford. It's fantastic being part of the Stanford community.
So many things that are great about it.
But you can't eat prestige. We need funding.
Yeah.
All right, I apologize. I have to.
Or have you given specific action items that you're asking us to do? Okay. Or I guess will you? Okay.
Yeah. Did you get a copy of the fact sheet? It's on the second page.
I don't think she did.
Let's keep going. Okay.
I've spoken before, so I'll give someone else a minute. Christy Moyton, I have 2 kids here at JLS, 6th and 8th grade. But I'm here as city staff. I work for the Safe Routes to School. I'm an assistant coordinator. So my concern is the school commute and the impact on that. So I'm mostly just here to listen and see what everybody's concerns are.
So I'm Meg Steiner. Actually, I've worn a lot of different hats in the school district. My family moved here from India when I was 7, so I went through the Palo Alto schools. My kids went through Palo Alto schools. They've all graduated now. They're in their 20s and 30s. And I work in the district as a special education aide, and I am also the president of Chapter 301, which is the local chapter of CSEA, which is Classified School, California School Employees Association. So we have about 800 classified staff, and that's not counting folks who work on an hourly basis or come in for short times. So these are folks who are here regularly. It's our school secretaries, food service, custodians, bus drivers, mental health therapists, everyone in the district office who's doing the support work for payroll and administrative support, tech support. So literally all the jobs other than teachers and administrators. So for us, this is an amazing school district. Clearly, I personally have a long history here. But we have a lot of really dedicated people who are passionate about supporting kids. And I think what's really important for us is that we want to educate any student who moves into our district. We want to support whoever comes to our district. But it is, as Jennifer has very clearly put it, we require per pupil money, and we rely on property tax. And it's not just per pupil one time, it has to be ongoing monies. So for classified staff, what we see is sort of the incredible rich array of programs we offer, and class sizes that are small, the special supports we give for our kids with special needs, or our work towards equity and bridging achievement gaps, to just providing amazing food. If you've ever come to lunch at JLS, it's pretty amazing. So, and our bus drivers are the ones who transport the kids from, Stanford West. So it directly impacts sort of all of the work we do. The problem when you start running short of money is class sizes have to go up, because that's the biggest, that's a big cost. But also what tends to happen is if you need to lay personnel off when 87 or almost 88% of the budget is personnel, the folks who go tend to be the support staff, because we're not legally mandated to be in the classroom. So that's a direct impact on the employees but also the support that we give to our teachers and our students and to the community as a whole. So that's why I think it's really, really critical that we all, voice that concern. So that's why I'm here, and also wanted to just let all of you know and kind of what we do. And we have always found our parents to be incredible supporters of the work of Classified and very appreciative. So we appreciate that as well.
I'm Sonia Bradsky. I have 3 daughters. 2 are now in college, so I've been at the school district. My oldest is 21, so I was in preschool family, parents nursery school, Fairmeadow, JLS, and then gone. So I've involved for years and years. It's my 8th year as a gun pie rep, so I do whatever. My main thing is volunteering in the school district. So I have a big concern, whatever, that the kids are well supported. I used to do contracts for a living, actually, so I could give you some tips on negotiations. You never get more than you ask for, right? And it should be a win-win situation when you negotiate, right? So anyway, when you go and talk to Josimidian or whatever.
No, some of us attended his recent talk on how to advocate. He did an amazing job. Yes, 13 points. So
He's good at that.
it's
Yeah,
pretty
we
awesome.
turned those 13 tips into a 13 checklist.
Okay.
We're going down the checklist now. See how we can get this. But we don't actually negotiate anything.
Yeah, we don't get to negotiate, which is like, as Todd said, it's one of the reasons we have to speak up to the county, because the county is gonna negotiate. And if it sounds like we don't care, sure, we'll take any kid. But when the city was doing their, comp plan, and they decided how much they were gonna grow, my attitude was, you all decide that, however much you decide to grow, we will teach whatever kids you send us. But those kids come with dollars. So to me, granted, there's other reasons to be concerned about how much the comp plan is, but as a school district, if the comprehensive plan, you decide you're gonna add X number of units across the city, fine, those come with dollars. But this is different, so we've got to get the county to advocate.
I do really appreciate the focus on ongoing source of revenue. The problem with the one-time source of revenue is expenses go up so much that it doesn't cover the future. We benefit because people before thought of us, or our benefiting from those smaller class sizes now. So even though our own kids may be out of the system, we want all future kids.
Because they come back, when you have your own.
If they can find a place to live here.
Yeah.
Principal Hickey?
I'm Lisa Hickey, principal here at JLS. I'm here for 2 reasons. One, because this is our site and I wanted to make sure that you had everything you need for the committee presentation. But also I'm just wanting to understand a little bit more about the general use permit. And I think specifically when it says the anticipated new PAUSD students under these 3 proposals, could you talk more to what those proposals are? Are these 3 proposals that Stanford has put forward that the county?
So the smallest one, so it's always hard to know exactly, because when you're gonna build units, when we are expecting students, when we're predicting how many students are coming, we look at the kind of housing that's built. Condos produce a different number of students per unit than single family homes do. Low-income housing produces on average a different number of students per unit than typical regular condos, at market rate condos. So different types of housing produce different numbers. So Stanford proposed in their guide to the county that they would build a certain number of units. And I actually believe it's 550 rental units. So then you have to say, okay, what kind of housing are those? 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. If it's 3 bedroom, you assume there's gonna be at least 1 or 2 kids in that unit. If it's 1 bedroom, there might still be a kid in that unit, hopefully not more than that, there might not be any. So you go by averages. And the university averaged about a half a student per unit. So they thought it would produce about 275 new students, and they would be spread out across elementary, middle, and high school. There's many issues with that. One, they've used about half, and we think that's kind of low, because when you're a graduate student or a young professor, you're gonna squeeze into a tighter space, and there might be more students in that unit than would be typical, across the averages. Additionally, one of the things that the county came back with was a proposal saying, we may actually want you to build more housing. If you're gonna add this many square units of research space and education space, that means a lot more employees, and we don't wanna add a ton more traffic coming in and out. So we actually are going to say, one of the possibilities is, we may require you to build hundreds more units that would then produce hundreds more students, potentially. So it's hard to know how many students it will produce, how many units they're gonna have to build, and how many students that will produce. Additionally, new rental units. I had another thought.
No, but we also have good data on how many students are living in housing Stanford has already built.
Yes.
So we know, for example, in the University Terrace that they've recently built, or in Stanford West, we actually know that
how many
supports that there's significantly more than 0.5
yes.
per unit. So that's important data.
Yeah, it is. 0.5 we think is a lowball estimate.
And there's data that supports that it is.
Right.
It's not.
And that's why we think it makes the most sense to send a certain number of dollars per student. Because you don't know how many. We say it's closer to 1 per unit. You say it's closer to half per unit. Instead of fighting about that when we really don't know what it's going to produce, let's just say, hey, let's not even tackle that one. There's enough problems we've got. However many students you send dollars with them. The other thing is that their thought was that those 275 students, or however many it is, they expected it would be spread evenly among elementary, middle, and high, and we find that's not true. When Stanford has graduate students or young professors, they tend to splay towards the elementary side. So we think the majority of them would be elementary, and we don't have any room at Escondido and Nixon to house more of them without them crossing over El Camino, completely leaving campus, and that gets away. Then they don't have the benefit of the neighborhood school, which we value as a priority for us. So those are the several different. It's why there's so many different scenarios. It's why there could be so many different students. It depends on what the county demands that they build, based on how much they're going to grow.
And since there's only busing that's paid for privately, I thought it was interesting. The transportation, safe routes to schools, because Stanford could help fund a bus that would then take kids to school
in different areas.
That would help
traffic, it's the time that they spend,
Currently, there is a bus service, but individuals pay for that privately, which is
unfortunate.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. So these are just kind of projected, depending on what Stanford has proposed, what we think the county might say, okay, this is how much housing you need.
Yeah.
Okay.
The two big variables are how much they're going to have to build, and then what the production rate is.
And I do want to say that, Stanford, just like throughout the county, and I think our county supervisors are interested in housing because it is a problem in Santa Clara County. People can't afford to live here. People with, whether it's teacher salaries or, other working jobs. And we have folks commuting from the Central Valley who work in our district. We have folks commuting from Santa Cruz, from Gilroy, from Marin, Sacramento.
Commuting.
But Stanford faces some of those issues as well, so there's some common ground too, because my daughter is a nurse at Stanford Hospital, and she has colleagues who come here in an RV and live in Reading. So it's an issue for all of us, which is I think why this housing is a big piece of it as well. And that's why we have these wide range of numbers, because to expand that much and have that many employees, to prevent the commute is to have people here, but then they're all here.
There's a question here. Is it possible to make them tell Stanford that, hey, if you're going to build all these housing units, make them all
So that's another
Then-
option,
then
right?
we'll
You could say,
solve the
don't
problem.
put it for the exemption. Now, I am no expert in this field, but from what I can read, I think they think that's a very slippery slope. That one, it actually, to pay taxes on it, they pay a lot more than they just have to pay the district, because they said, you pay your taxes and a fraction of it the district gets back. So it would actually cost them more if they didn't put in for an exemption. But additionally, I think that most tax exempt organizations, be they religious, educational, whatnot, are thinking, no, don't start that trend where we are due an exemption, we qualify for an exemption, we do not want to be paying taxes. Or it starts a trend where every other organization is gonna expect us to not be tax exempt. So I think that's a non-starter for them, and they would be paying more money than if they just handed this So yeah, it's an ask.
Would the county be able to force them to do this?
No, they
Pass
what
legislations?
what they can do is they can say we won't approve this GUP, right? They can be stuck forever trying to negotiate it. But they also the county doesn't want that either. They want everyone to be happy. They want to find they love when Stanford thrives. They love when their cities thrive. So they really want to come to an agreeable resolution here. But my sense is, I've never explicitly talked to anybody about it, my sense is that's not true.
My name is Jennifer Liu. I have two sons who graduated from GUP, and before that, JLS, both of them. I didn't realize how big their state is until recently. For Measure G, there are a lot of debate, a lot of campaign. Everybody seems to be very care a lot for that. But it seems that for the GUP, Palo Alto is so quiet. When I talk, at least for the whole Chinese community, just a few people talking about that, it seems that no one really know what it's about, no one really care. So I feel that there's something missing. Maybe we should have more publication, more advertisement about the state, how big it is.
This is the single largest proposed development in the history of Santa Clara County.
Right, exactly.
It's bigger than Facebook and Google and all those other things.
Yeah.
Right,
Yet you're right, you don't read about it in the San Jose Mercury newspaper, you're not,
It's dry, right? It's like not, it sounds very, I am grateful to PTAC for elevating this, because I think that the district, at least I can speak as a board, we have been aware of it, and we have been advocating. About a year and a half ago, we sent our first letter, and we've been individually in touch with our supervisors, Smithian, and we sent another letter right after this summer, just in this fall. So we've been communicating with the county, letting them know what we want. But I don't think we ever thought, wow, this is a forceful community. We should set them loose, right? We never thought of it that way. And so I'm grateful to PTAC for really elevating that, saying, hey, why should it just be the 5 board members or the district speaking? We should all be speaking about it. And it's true. It'll make a
I haven't seen any debate whatsoever on nextdoor.com.
Right.
I mean, if you think if all of us today leave and we all talk to 5 other people about how important this is, it really makes a difference. And I know we're going to run out of time, but I really want to highlight Click My Cause. There's information about it right here on, so it's an app you can download, and it's really, really an easy way to be able to send messages. The messages are even pre-written for you, and you can do it in about 2 seconds. So you'll see, if you have an iPhone, just download Click My Cause. You can do it right now during the meeting, and I use it personally, and I'm a big fan of it because it makes it so easy. The Palo Alto PTA Council sponsors it. It's free for users, but that's probably the easiest way to get a message out that doesn't require someone actually even writing an email. So just give it a try, see what you think.
Yeah, I feel for this we need a lot more action. Like we should have a bunch of volunteers do some advocacy, maybe door knocking, pass out the flyer to alert not only for the school district, but the whole Palo Alto, let people know how big the state is. The state is much higher than Measure Z.
Yes.
Because for Measure Z, if it fails, we can come back a couple of years later. But this is a one-time opportunity for the next 15, 20 years. We're ready to make it bigger.
Just to revisit Click My Cause again, if you go into Click My Cause and you sort of subscribe to Palo Alto Council of PTAs, I just opened up my app and it says Act Now, there's a big Act Now next to Council of PTAs, and I click on it and it's a letter to the supervisors laying out the priorities that PTAC has laid out, and you literally send a message. And so, and you can personalize it if you want, but if you don't want to, or if you want to use this as a basis of where to work from, but it's wonderful. And it also has stuff at the state level and whatnot, but this is a really easy way. If you can get people to download the app and sign up, it's a really easy way to let people know what they can do, right? So just sign up for this and click this.
Many people are reluctant to install app, maybe just have some message and.
Yes, same message is available, right?
Yeah, just have the send the letter and let people send the letter.
Email it or
Yeah.
snail it.
Yeah, I echo what Jennifer said. I mean, Measure Z to a point, toward the end, I feel like the committee is not very financially responsible because I got literally, whatever the poster every week in my mail. When I already signed up saying, I support Measure Z, I mean, I just feel like it's a waste of a lot of paper and the name. But for this is much bigger issue for the community than Measure Z.
Yeah.
But we don't hear anything.
The difference is we don't vote. We're not going to vote on that.
That's
right?
true.
We don't vote.
That's true.
And I think that's really what it is. They want to bombard you when you're voting, and here we're not voting. But what we can do is advocate.
But yeah, as a community, so I mean that leads to my second point is, I mean you have a set of things that you want to do right now, like reach out to community. It's one. Right, and we already talked to. I went to the hearing in the city. We already talked to the supervisors, and then now we reach out to a broader community. But at some point, you might want to elevate that to, I don't know. I mean, do we need to organize the parents to maybe stage a protest somewhere? I mean, if our voice did not get heard, or if they consist saying, or if what she said, I mean, if she seriously meant what she said, if they don't plan to pay a dime for any additional students, then I mean, what more do we want to do? I mean, that
I'm
probably
president
you
of the
guys
Palo Alto Unified School District School Board. I know y'all can organize. I have seen y'all organize. Yeah, I mean, I think the question is, what does that look like? Is it? I think it's finding a meeting, right? Whether it's the regular supervisors meeting, or whether it's a special meeting about the GUP, and showing up, and whether it's signs in the back and some people speaking, and people that can't go get emails in. Even if you can go, get email in and show up. But making sure that when they're negotiating this agreement, they know that this community is very concerned about. And we're not saying don't build. We're not saying we don't want their kids. We're saying we are happy to take their kids. We just need dollars with the kids, or there is a severe negative impact on our community as it now is. And we're doing pretty well right now as a school district.
And on those kids as well,
Yep.
who we take,
Yeah.
because they will not have the same experience
exactly.
as we are currently having.
It makes it harder for them to, if they're trying to hire people and say, look at this great school district, they have now just created a situation where it's not nearly as strong a school district as it was. Because we have to do a lot more with the same amount of money.
And one additional point I want to make is, I actually, I've been to several meetings, and I know that the more active members of, whatever, who are sitting here today, actually already have their kids in high schools. I mean, that's kind of like natural when your kids are still in elementary, you get busy, and then you're not that familiar with the whole process. You feel more comfortable when your kids are in high school. But this is a more important issue for those younger families. How do we reach out to those families? I mean, that's why I want to talk to the elementary school parents, particularly the ones who have younger kids, because that will impact them more.
So if you're an elementary school PTA president, can you raise your hand, or if you're representing, talk to these people.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I
They're
also-
here. And then also, I'm gonna send this back around. If you wanna help organize, we need bodies, we need help. I mean, we're just a group of volunteers like yourself. Just put a little star next to your name. We will
Just
send
kidding,
it
right back to you. But I think you're very right, that yes, it's gonna affect all of us, it's gonna affect the town, it's gonna, you know, the city itself will be negatively impacted if you get hundreds of billions of dollars. But elementary parents specifically, their children will be in it for the long haul with bigger class sizes and fewer resources.
I don't know, I got actually, because I'm involved in a high school PTA, you know, I know we send out emails, but I did not really hear anything from the elementary. I mean, here you see actually quite a few, you know, parents from the Chinese community, but I don't know how to reach out to the other, because we have kind of, you know, we have our social media, you know, we send out emails, send out messages through the WeChat. But I don't know how to reach out, what's the PTA's plan to reach out to the rest of the community. I'm sure they really care about this issue, but I just, currently, I don't think they're aware of how important it is.
I feel that maybe all the.
Hold on, one at a time. Could you just say your name, because I didn't get it?
Oh, Jenny Chow. So I have a junior in the valley, and I have a 5th grader in elementary.
Okay, Jen, I think you had your hand up a little bit.
I love what I'm hearing. I really want you guys to come around to each school to our general PTA meeting in January and like spend 15 minutes.
I need to jump in here right now. Anyway, Christina Schmidt, and thank you. I serve on the PTA Council with Jane, so I'm your vice president to her presidency. And we have definitely sent out a lot of notices on e-news, and they go out to the entire district. Now, specific schools by school, I think that you can reach all of those families. We can do Friday folders at the elementary school. You throw in a Friday folder, you get those things out. I've done it in so many other variations that I would certainly help anyone who wanted to do that at the elementary school level. And there's many ways and options to deliver this information. Every school has a different, you know, way or method that they do it. And certainly we can reach out to all of our presidents at all of our schools and ask them how they would prefer to do it with their principals, et cetera, et cetera. There is a tricky fine line here because it is not necessarily a school, it's not a board issue, it's an us issue. So we have to separate it out to make sure that it's parents generating to parents, and we can't ask necessarily the school principal to sign off on something unless they're a parent, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of fine lines in there, but we can certainly help you and assist you in getting the word out to all of our schools. And we don't have a lot of time, so.
Okay, and so to her point though, all those nice brochures that were interesting to look at about Measure Z, I'm sorry to say that only people that are in this room are gonna read stuff like this that comes home from school.
Right.
So like, is there a snappier something?
We can make it snappy.
And does it mean if we have to separate PTA and
Yes,
parents,
we do.
we need to get a parent group where we say, hey, can everyone pitch in for, I mean, do we have to do a campaign?
Yes, we
type of
do.
thing?
That's the other thing.
It has to be separated from.
It was a campaign, we're not a campaign.
Yeah, so
That raised
how do you even?
$120,000.
I know.
So,
Yeah.
part of this, there's.
So maybe electronic, but still, can someone design something that looks, that's in Chinese?
But you're right, yeah.
And then something that's in the.
That looks pretty
that is
right
for
there.
your audience?
Yes, I think we should treat it like a campaign. Have very easy to read flyer.
Keep
that
going,
the
ladies,
people
keep
And I think that's
can
really,
take
and you
flyer
hear, like,
from
who's all in favor of nominating them to head this up? Can you make a motion?
We need all volunteers to be more vocal and get their friends to sign
Okay,
up
so we
for-
have a January meeting that we can go down to the county. If you guys really wanna go, we can do it then.
Why don't you talk about the date now?
Well, we don't have a date, that's the problem, they didn't give us the date, because I think they're afraid of us going down there.
It may not be on their agenda yet.
Typically, they start at like 9:30 in the morning and go to 12:30 or something. It's
We
doing
can
this.
organize it. Okay.
That is, okay, we can still get people, so.
Yeah, it changes things, right? It's a different, you're gonna get different people. if it's
Different
during the
type of
day
people.
versus
If you're doing
evening.
the evenings, maybe some of the working parents can go, but if it's during the
The
day.
board of supervisors typically meets during the
Well,
day.
what about this thing Todd mentioned earlier, that they're actually, the supervisors are actually just from Palo Alto?
But that sounded like that might not be till March though.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be after the development agreement is done,
Yeah.
which is when we're gonna.
So
do
that's
that.
why he was saying the signs won't matter at that point.
I mean, they might still, it depends on what they agree, they might not even reach a development agreement and just say, okay, we're just sticking with the GUP regular. But to wait till then, maybe too late.
How is the city of Palo Alto engaged in this process? Are they giving input to the county?
I don't know if they passed a resolution, but they did air concerns about traffic, that if they're gonna build this much more, how are they, I think that's part of the reason why the possibility of more housing is not. Because I believe the city council said, whoa, you are looking at a traffic nightmare if you add that much square units and only that many more housing.
But you know, Stanford is officially on record as saying that they expect this is not going to, their own analysis says this is not gonna generate any more traffic, which is pretty phenomenal if you think it out. But that's their analysis, their own
We're also on
data.
record saying they're not gonna give us a penny, so.
It's very clear in the plan, but it's on record that they expect that they can pay employees to take Caltraining.
So is it safe to say that then the city of Palo Alto is not going to advocate for school?
I don't think the city of Palo Alto has always been extremely supportive of the school district. So I think when push came to shove, yes, they would be, but are they gonna make, that's not gonna be their issue. They have city things under their jurisdiction that they are concerned about, like traffic and housing.
But to your point, we could self-organize and go to the city council meeting and say, could you guys please take up a resolution and say something, just the same way we asked the
They could ask.
board to do that. And then they'll say, oh, wait, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And then they will.
I mean, if they really add this many spaces, when we add 550 units, housing in Palo Alto is gonna get worse, because those people are gonna need somewhere to be, and they're gonna wanna be right here.
Right.
So it's gonna make our housing crisis even worse than it already is. At least, that's my, I can't say that the study's been done to that, but it makes sense.
Alright, you're done with this.
So.
Do you have any more information on ask housing for full-time teachers and staff? Do you have any more clarity on what?
Could happen, what the possibilities are there. I mean, we didn't ask for that just because we worked really hard to say, okay, we know that any of these things is a big ask, and Stanford has a perception of, so we have to really prioritize, so we made our two number ones, basically. But.
Because, you know, Stanford can't even house their own employees, to your point,
Yeah.
on the classified staff that's coming from so far.
It's a dream ask.
And they have the same, you know, I mean, they too have custodians, and they also have food service workers, and so, you know, and these are not the top paying jobs.
No.
So it's difficult, you know, it's hard enough to afford this area as a firefighter, or a teacher, or a nurse, or a doctor even. So all of the support, like, you know, real support.
Yeah.
And with every job, I think I read somewhere, like every new tech job is like 6 support jobs that come along with that. So all these people need to be done here somehow.
More baristas.
Yeah,
There's
more baristas,
people.
exactly.
Sorry to have to leave, I've got a swimmer to take home. Anyway, thank you.
Does anyone else have a question or
I think we have this room till 8.
proclamation or?
You can have it as long as you want. Okay.
Hi, I'm Jean, and I have my elder one in fourth grade, and the younger one is still in pre-K. So he's going to also the elementary school in Palo Alto. So this is the gap. I would like to know what will be the best agreement we can have after whatever we collected and whatever we do for this agreement.
Like, what's our ideal? Our ideal is every year when we get our tax revenue, we can figure out how much we're spending per kid based on our total number we're getting, total amount of our budget divided by the number of kids we have, and that's how much we spend per kid. To me, our number one ideal is that every single year, any students that are coming from Stanford into the district come with, we multiply that number times 19,500, or eventually 20,000 or 21,000, and we get those dollars. I think an ideal also includes a school right there, so those kids have a neighborhood school like everyone else in Palo Alto does, and then we're not into the traffic. So there's lots of other asks too that I think are great, But I guess what I just described isn't even our ideal, it's our necessity. We have to have that. There's lots of other asks on top of that that we see as, that PTAC has identified as ways that Stanford could continue to support PAUSD, which in turn benefits them because many of their employee students come to PAUSD. But I think that those two things are necessary, dollars for kids and land for the school.
Do you have some ideas of things you want to ask for?
Yeah, so I'm thinking about, I once attended the podcast of the last year in new teachers. So I'm thinking about what will be, looks like we have 5 supervisors, right? So if two of them or 3 of them go to no, so that means the number listed here will be rejected by the company. Is that the procedure to move forward here?
Well, there's several different things we're going on. One is the development agreement, which is likely where any Palo Alto stuff would get negotiated. And then after they're done with the development agreement, then there's that general GUP. There's still the whole big plan. And I believe they'll just keep negotiating until I don't think they're gonna get to a point, I would guess, that the county would get to a point where they'd say, forget it, we reject your GUP, it's not gonna happen. Right. I think that they will eventually come to an agreement. The question is just the details. How much square footage they can add, what mitigating factors are going to come into play, and they have to come to agreement on it. So I think they'll just keep going back to the drawing board till they get there.
So the negotiable is really the number that can be controlled or can be decreed on the agreement. The number of students, the number of units.
Yes.
So did we propose any meetings that we want to have on this agreement on the housing?
For the district? No. It's all for Stanford employees.
You mean, which scenario of this, which of these 3 scenarios do we recommend?
Yeah, because
if there's any that's an advantage, which at the end, as someone told me today, as I was coming, I was talking to my other board about, they're like, Stanford's just gonna do what they want to do, right? So
That's scary.
Right? So it's fighting against that apathy when we don't have.
I can't even say, I guess the smallest one would be best, because that would be less impact, because 275 new students with $1 million, you would all feel it. Your students would feel it very first day next year. They would feel it. That's a lot of money. So if we found out that we were never getting any dollars, 275 new students is better than 861, but 275 without any dollars is catastrophic.
Also, if you think about all the improvements, how much stress they have to put on
what their student load is.
And also we already get taught, our classes. We can't even have field trips for school buses, right? We have to raise funds for it. Just imagine how much more we will have to do for all the extra kids.
That's true. Whatever's not covered in school, we will have to fund high, it's covered through PTA, it's covered through you write a check to
Exactly.
Oh, it's covered by the volunteers.
Yes,
That's
the
volunteers. Another one of my pet peeve where if you drive to a field trip, you are responsible for the kids in your car.
Exactly.
Nobody's paying for any, insurance
Library.
on that, so, yeah.
Okay, let's continue. I know there's like an outer room. Can you guys just move closer in? We have some
I wanted to point out to everyone, because you have the handouts, there are the specific school board resolutions and asks, those 3. And then if you take a look at what the PTA Council is asking, that's that kind of deeper, granular ask in the sense that, yes, we want a school, we want more money, and that's going to cover the general basics of what we do at every day. But when you look at things like you're just mentioning, school field trips, how about after school care?
Yeah.
All of the other things, music and art programs, all the other little things, those are the asks that PTA Council has looked at and are building. And that's a place where parents can really speak up to our county supervisors. because they're gonna hear the basics, but those other things need to be pulled out. And that's the fuller experience of this, exactly. I mean, that's why we're here. It's, you know, when we think about Palo Alto schools, one great thing that everyone says about our schools is the abundance of resources that we offer our students to choose from, to be able to enjoy. I was speaking with the young student who was here earlier, who I think he said he was in 3rd or 4th grade, and he was telling me the best thing about school was everything was free choice, that he got to go all over and do so many things. What's gonna happen to that if we drop in extra students? And I asked him, I said, how many kids are in your classroom? He said, I think 21. And he knew. And that's but what happens when that goes to 28? And what happens then? And how does that measure of quality change for our kids coming through? And those are the things that the PTA Council list is trying to build on, just to keep that in mind when you're thinking about the things that you want to bring to the county supervisors, in addition to what the board is already supporting and what they've asked for.
I actually have a question too.
Could you first state
Yes, so my name is Iris. I'm representing Palo Verde Elementary School, which is just right here down the street. One question I have is, they are already building, they propose to build their own daycare, right? Their childcare center. Will they be able to do their own elementary school if they are not gonna do?
Well, so they don't wanna be in the business, I assume, right, of developing their own, if they made their own school and they were their own district, they need their own principals, their own superintendents, their own, you know, staff, their own system, their own, right, I mean, so if they wanted to,
right,
okay, that works too. We like interacting with them this much, we like being so enmeshed with each other. But if there's no dollars, okay, if you'd rather educate your own students, then give us money to educate them.
But is Palo Alto Unified School District in a position saying, okay, if you cannot support
us,
do your own thing?
We don't get to tell them to. We can just say like, oh, that's what you want to do, great, okay.
No, but we cannot reject their students' enrollment.
No,
so is that kind of like a binding agreement in the past saying we have to accept their students?
The district is, that's the line of
we're
the district.
public school. Right. We're public school, we
So
have to
they are
keep
part of our
the,
district,
right.
which is wonderful in so many ways. Right, but it has to come with dollars.
And I also think one of the reasons why it's been so quiet is because they are building on their own land, right? Unlike other places, you hear a lot of noise because they are building on the city land. I mean, this proposal, they are expanding on their own land. It's private. They own it. So.
And if you know, when Facebook was over on California Ave, remember when they were, and they were growing and growing and growing there, and there were more housing was going up. No big deal, because even though we had to think about which schools do we have room in, as new buildings were going up, new tax dollars were coming in. So we had the dollars for kids. It's really because of the tax exempt that's making a huge difference.
So essentially, if they want, they can grow as big as they can, and
yeah, I mean, at some point we'd say, okay, our schools are all full, but we're pretty far from that. We're okay. We're ready to grow, but there's an impact. We need dollars so we can do the work.
And also I think the one thing I'm concerned about is I think that the whole school district has a problem recruiting, retaining good teachers because they live far away, and also they basically, if the city were, I was thinking that with either Stanford or the city, if they were ever to build affordable housing, should they put priority to the teachers that the young teachers especially, put them in the priority. I mean, like my son has been in Palo Alto School District for 6 years, and not a single teacher live in Palo Alto. They all commute, and like my son's teacher now, she's wonderful, but she doesn't have time to talk because she finishes school and then she needs to take her 2 kids back to Fremont and go for their things. And sometimes one day she told me she sat in the traffic for 3 hours because they had to drive across the bridge.
Evening recital or play or party. Right. How are they supposed to? I mean, that's a 16-hour day. you know, just to be able to participate in something outside school hours. It's really.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, I would think that if we were to.
Take Lisa, for instance, and Matt, period.
Yeah, in this city, if we were like to set some rules that let's say if we build affordable housing, then the teachers should have the priority. Well, is there a possible way to do that?
Right, the district is looking at what are the possibilities, right? What, if we build something ourselves, or do we want to be in the real estate business? Do we have other people do it? Do we partner with other organizations? We're looking at all the different models that are out there. I mean, it's not on our agenda yet or anything, but it's work that staff is doing now to just information gather and find out what all the options are. So I hope that, you know, we eventually get there.
I mean, already a lot of people are in the business, forced into real estate business, like Google, Facebook, and a lot of, like Stanford themselves, they build their own units and everything.
Zorene's, the restaurant on California Avenue. She bought a house and 4 of her employees live in that house because she couldn't find reliable housing. Zorene.
Oh, the Pakistani restaurant. Yeah. We were
the
there
restaurants can't find staff because it's
So
not.
she did a very expensive thing, but her business is booming and she's got employees that are committed there. They've got housing.
Has there been any thought in creating a short video similar to a pie video? Because I think, you know, I think that is, I agree with you. You know, you hear another acronym of GUP and many people don't know what it is. To be honest, I knew big picture, but I didn't know a lot of the details. This meeting has been extremely helpful. So when you think about, you know, even our own management team and our teachers and our classified staff, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding out there, and yet, you know, you see a flyer like this, and you know, I'm sure this flyer took a while to put together, but it still doesn't explain the story in the way that you just presented it to us.
Stop saying
We do a YouTube and then we send a link to everyone. And then 5 minutes video.
We get a student to do it.
Yeah.
I think that
explain I think initially, I think you and Todd spent like, you know, 3 to 5 minutes to explain the whole thing. Yeah. I know a lot of parents, you send them, I mean, I know this has been scanned and sent to the WeChat group multiple times.
Yeah. Right. We send this like multiple times.
And people can translate it?
Yeah.
That's, I mean,
I already have
myself, if I were trying to read that much dry language in a different language, I'd be like, I'm out,
We essentially had a summary going in a WeChat group already.
Yeah. But you know how many people actually read every detail? No.
Even
for a roadshow.
Got some schools, especially from Nixon and Escondido, the parents got involved, so school gonna be affected directly.
Right, the ones that are most directly
Yeah,
affected.
because I've been through, my kids graduated from Nixon, my 2 kids went through it. We were there 8 years, we see the overflow, they send the kids all over.
Yeah.
What's the projected timeline?
If they actually build direct, as soon as they get approval, they start building. I assume that means we probably start seeing kids about a year. I mean, it's not all gonna boom be there at the same time, right? They build a building, kids come the next fall more. So I'm guessing once it gets approval, over the next 3 years is when we'd see more and more kids coming. And again, disproportionately.
Does the school district has like a limit for the size of the class?
Well, we have the max number that we can fit in classrooms right now, right? If every class were the largest it could be, and every classroom were being used. But if more kids came, we still have to teach them, right? If they're in our district. So there are several campuses right now that we rent out to others. The Stratford School that's right next to Green, that's our property, and we lease it out. We'd have to reclaim it so we could use it. Athena, which is down on 525 San Antonio, if we had to, we'd take it back and we'd use it. Ventura, which is in the Ventura neighborhood, I think the city owns that one now. We have to procure that one again. We're redoing Cubberley, and there's talk now of how much do we have to put at the center, the idea that we could have to open a new school, a school again at that site. That's in talks right now. So we have capacity to do a lot more, but of course it starts to impact things. When you're at max, you don't have the flexibility, right? Oh, we have just enough spaces, you just came here and enrolled, the only seat we have left is down at, you know, wherever, it's up at Addison, and you're all the way down. So the fuller we get, the less flexibility we have to keep the neighborhood schools and all that.
And opening those schools, or renovating those schools, or running those schools will require dollars to go with those kids.
That's another principal, that's more secretaries, that's more, you know, another school psychologist, another reading specialist.
And also, the class size actually makes a huge difference. The kids actually, they can sense it. I just want to tell one story. Like my son actually went to Redwood City once because their class, like a buddy trip, and they went to visit the school in Redwood City. And on that day, he came back and he said, "We went to a school today. I think they have so many kids in the classroom." He was like, "How do they do that?"
That's your parcel tax at work in elementary.
Thank you.
So it's like when he was in 3rd grade, when he went that half-a-day trip to Redwood City School, and came back with a picture of a new buddy he made, and then he gave these comments about how that school was and this and that. I was like, oh wow, they notice.
Yeah.
Well, even for like an 8-9-year-old, 8-year-old.
Okay, let's finish up over. If you want to say your name and your children, and then if you have any questions or comments.
Okay.
No worries. Thank you for being here.
And the others, do you have any questions or comments?
Since I'm probably the only resident who does not live in Palo Alto. I mean, I have 2 sons who are in 7th and 8th grade. I live in San Mateo, and it is a huge difference. You know, you don't think that me living 15 miles away, in terms of my son's a freshman in high school, and he switched into a different class a week and a half later, and his history class had 38 students. Here at JLS, I've been here, this is my 3rd year here, and we never in a core class go above 30 students. And of course, I was at the elementary school at Briones, where your 4th and 5th grade class, and I agree the parcel tax at work, but to be at 24, all neighboring schools, those upper elementary classes are 32, 33. So.
All the other cities around here?
Yeah.
A lot of the local cities, yeah.
The largest school is 30 kids.
And I also want to point out that, you know, it's, not only do we have the small class size, but you also have aides who are in classrooms.
Yes.
So now you actually have a 2nd adult in there, so you cut your adult student ratio in half again.
And the amount of course
And the amount of
offerings
course
that we
offerings,
offer. I mean,
yes.
there are over 30
Yes.
electives at JLS. At my
They're
son's
incredible.
middle school, there's 5.
Yeah. And really cool ones, like the video production one, that and everything, they're amazing, amazing. And brand new ones, what were the 3 new ones that were brought to the board last year, or 5 new ones 2 years ago?
Yeah, new ones.
I know.
Okay, so if no one else has anything they want to, is there anyone else want to say anything about this? We haven't spoken before. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to read you guys the PTA Council wish list, and this has already been read to the board as well, and also in the public hearing. If you want to take some notes, we can also make this available, but you can, along these lines, write to or express your opinion through the ways that you like to. But I'm just going to go ahead and read. They're in no particular priority. But what happens is, of these that we are asking as part of our wish list, the 3 that the board has asked is embedded in these. So that's why we ended up with 4 extra ones. So you'll hear some repeats of things. Okay, number 1 is to hold community meetings for school communities when school is in session, August to May, and not during the summer months, or the winter months, or the spring break. Number 2, to maintain our current per student funding level, which is about $19,000 per student. Number 3, to maintain our current classroom sizes. We just talked about that. Number 4, to adhere to neighborhood school policy. The kids should not be forced to cross El Camino or Page Mill or Oregon Express to get to school. Number 5, to have room for all PAUSD students at PAUSD schools. 6, to leave rental housing and new construction on the tax roll at market value. We talked about that as well.
And the next one, to maintain our safe routes to school. The next one, to subsidize housing for PAUSD full-time teachers and staff. The next one, Stanford to build after-school childcare space on PAUSD school sites. The next one, Stanford to offer to sell land to PAUSD at fair market value for new elementary school site, Quarry Road, or fund to build a second level expansion at existing elementary schools at Nixon, Barron Park, and or Escondido Elementary. The next one, Stanford to contribute to safe routes to school programs, such as subsidizing yellow school bus costs, school bike path maintenance costs, crossing guards, and annual safe routes to school specific road improvement studies. So these are pretty much all the things we talked about and all the things that in our wish list that we want to propose, so that our elected officials can negotiate on our behalf. We can only put out there what will truly impact us, and it's for them to decide. So if you heard anything that I just read that you want to comment on more, please do so in the various vehicles that that you have, either through your school PTA or individually on this fact sheet on the second side. You'll see places that you can write to. If you want, you can also record what you want to say, send it to me, or send it to Jennifer at the board, because we are consistent in our messaging, and we want to collate as much information as we can from the community. Anybody else have any other comments?
Thank you all so much for coming.
Yeah.
It's really good questions. Committed people, thank you.
Okay. All right, so this concludes then our information meeting. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.